What's up, CFO gang? It's your boy Jay Tuck. Real Cowboys fans stand up, and you're now tuned into the Cowboys Fans Only channel. So if you're new, do me a huge favor, comment, like, subscribe, somewhere down there, somewhere down there, somewhere down there. And be sure to stay updated with all Dallas Cowboys content. Also, follow me on Twitter. And yo, I gotta say a huge appreciation to everybody. We just reached 5,000 followers on Twitter. So salute to each and every one of you guys. I cannot do that without you guys. 5,000 and we're going to the moon. And also CowboysFansOnly.com to get your merch. Well, Cowboys fam, it's time. It's time we get past Tom Brady. We put that game to rest, even though I still haven't, to be honest with y'all. But we got to put that game to rest because here in the NFL, you got to move on to the next week. And so this Sunday, we got the Chargers lined up. And if you watch my channel, y'all kind of know, like, I'm kind of a closet Chargers fan because they got my guy, Derwin James. They got Asante Samuel Jr. They got Rashawn Slater. I mean, I like what the Chargers do with their organization. So I got to reach out to one of my guys. Great content, Guilty as Charged podcast. His name is Steve. He's a Chargers guy. So CFO gang, welcome to the channel. My guy, Steve. What's going on, guy?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here and, really excited about this particular matchup. We were talking beforehand that we think it's going to be a lot of points scored on Sunday and it's going to be an electric atmosphere. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be electric atmosphere because it's your home opener, right? So, I mean, I know they were in SoFi last night, and that was kind of a boring game, boring home opener. Like, I don't know why they picked the Bears, but you guys get the marquee match of the Dallas Cowboys coming to SoFi Stadium. So, for all the viewers, let me know, how do you feel about the new stadium? Because did you get to go last year, or it's going to be your first time kind of seeing the stadium?
Yeah, so I live 3 hours north of Los Angeles. So this is going to be my first time actually going into SoFi Stadium. I've been to the team store a couple of times, but nothing's going to compare to seeing it like in a actual game setting. So it looks amazing from everything that we've seen. Obviously, Jerry's World has kind of been the standard for new stadiums for quite a while, but SoFi Stadium really, I think, from just an architecture standpoint, is going to really kind of rival that, and it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere. And I really don't understand why they picked the Bears for the Rams home opener. Like I understand that you're probably in the NFL offices, you're probably not thinking like, oh, this team's going to be bad, this team's going to be good. Right. But like the Bears, like you couldn't have scheduled like the Niners or the Seahawks or like
That's
somebody cool.
Like a blockbuster Sunday night event of like the Bears and Andy Dalton versus the Rams in their brand new stadium. Like, so like I said, you guys get that marquee matchup of having the Dallas Cowboys, which we're going to talk about that. But before we get started, let everybody know where they can find you, my guy.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Stephen I. Haglund. That's my private page. And then the Guilty as Charged podcast, which I do run the Twitter account there. So we're the fastest rising podcast among Chargers world is what I like to tell people. So you can follow us at GAC Podcast 17. I've seen a couple of your guys actually following us already. So shout out to those who have followed us. It's going to be a fun week. And don't worry, like I will give you tons of Chargers content if you follow us. So if you want all the intel, I am not shy. I'll be tweeting from that page all week long.
Absolutely. So that's why I follow you guys on Twitter, because I got to stay in tune with my guy. So every time, when Asante Samuel was making plays versus Keenan Allen, I was getting it from my guys, man. So you got to have intel, man. Boots on the ground. Man. So before we dive into Sunday's matchup, let's talk about last night. So you guys did us a favor and beat one of our division rivals in the Washington football team. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that game and what you liked that you saw, and some things you're kind of like, really didn't like that.
Man, it was a great day to be a Chargers fan. It really was, because there have been so many things around this team in the past that have really plagued them, whether it be slow starts. The Chargers starting 0-4 on a season is not uncommon, unfortunately. And they've just had this tendency to dig themselves into a hole in the season and in games, right? And so we saw some adversity in the game. For those who were able to watch the game, there was this bizarre call against Justin Herbert where it was pretty clearly a pass attempt and the referees ruled it a fumble and didn't overturn it. And then Washington was able to go down and score. And in the past, like that kind of thing would have crippled the Chargers. Like it would have been like, this game's over. The Chargers have no chance. and just things would have, steamrolled from there. And so to see the Chargers come back and battle through adversity like that was so encouraging. We were talking off air about the kicking situation for the Cowboys, and the Chargers are not unfamiliar with, poor kicking situations and missing kicks in games either.
Mhm.
So they have a new kicker this year. He's very young, has a really strong leg. He was, 2 for 2 on field goals yesterday. Didn't miss a PAT. They all looked pretty good. So it was great to see, this team kind of make progress and really start the Brandon Staley era off in a bang.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 for 2 on field goals and no missed extra points. I cannot relate with you right now, man. I wish I could, because I would probably be sitting feeling a lot better about where my team stands if that was the case. So yeah, I actually did watch you guys play Washington because, guys got my guys. Plus, we play you guys, so it makes things a lot easier. But I like what you guys have with your offense is explosive. Now, your secondary, and that's kind of conversation that we just had as well. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on your secondary. I know you got Chris Harris and my guy Asante Samuel Jr., but overall, what is your confidence level having Derwin back? I'm sure that gives you guys a huge boost, but what's your thoughts on the secondary?
Yeah, having Derwin back is huge, and he's going to make this ship go. Like, he is the key to really the whole defense, because I think, like, if God forbid Joey Bosa gets hurt, like, I think the pass rush would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if Derwin James gets hurt, like, this secondary is one Derwin James injury from being bad,
Mm-hmm.
and that really is the case right now. I think Asante Samuel Jr., he is a very, very high level prospect, but you really never know with these rookies. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you might go up against, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, and you might get burnt.
Exactly.
That's just the nature of the league.
Mm-hmm.
He played great yesterday. He really did. The thing about Asante Samuel Jr. that we all love, and I'm sure you do because you watched him play and wanted him on your team, but he's just so even keel.
Mm-hmm.
And for a rookie, like, his mentality does not change at all, and he's able to bounce back. And he had a really bad pass interference call. The call was bad, the play was not bad. And a lot of rookie corners, when stuff like that happens, they kind of they pout, they don't play, they get in their head. And the next drive, Asante Samuel came back. He had a great run stop. He had a pass breakup, and then a few drives later, he had arguably the play of the game where he came up and run support and pushed Antonio Gibson back towards the middle, where a linebacker was able to come and punch the ball out and cause a fumble. So I thought Asante Samuel played great, particularly against the run. But, you never know. Like, the NFL is so tough against receivers and corners. Like, you never know when those lumps are going to come. I think Michael Davis is a solid number 2 cornerback, but he's really their number 1 kind of by default until Asante develops and becomes that guy. So I think it's an okay cornerback room until Asante becomes that guy. But if Derwin gets injured, then this group becomes, solid to awful pretty quick.
Yeah, and like I said, everything you just shared about Asante was definitely what I was sharing during the draft. Plus, he has, Hall of Fame DNA, and so he has a father who's been through it and is going to keep him even keel, and he's always going to battle. Like, even when I watched him at Florida State, he'll give up some, but he never gets off kilter, man. He's always going to be competitive, and he has that natural drive. Now, let's go to one of your other draft picks that you had in the first round, which was another one of my favorites. Right, Rashawn Slater. So I'm seeing all the rave reviews about Rashawn Slater because he handled himself well at left tackle. I'm going against Chase Young. I mean, that was kind of his marquee coming in from the draft, was like the Chase Young eraser. Get the Chase Young eraser. He played well yesterday. So let me hear a little bit about your thoughts on Rashawn Slater.
Yeah, like, when that draft was happening, we all thought that the Chargers had no chance of getting him unless they traded up. And I think once the quarterback situation kind of happened and the Broncos and Panthers each took the 2 corners, then it was like, okay, like, there's a legitimate chance that this happens. And so he's been a godsend. Like, again, if you follow the Chargers for a while, it's been about 11 years since they've had a quality offensive line. Like, they made, free agent mistake after free agent mistake and draft mistake, during the prime of Phillip Rivers' career, really. And, he hung in there and was, he's the toughest quarterback that I've ever watched on the Chargers. And, I have all the respect in the world for him, because he battled through all of that. But to get Rashawn Slater, it really has been a huge blessing for this team because he is an eraser. Like he has all pro level talent at the left tackle position, which the Chargers have not had in my lifetime. So
Exactly.
it's been amazing to watch. He was so good against Chase Young that they swapped Chase Young to the other side.
Yeah.
Like Chase Young last year rushed about 90% of his snaps against the left tackles.
Mm.
And yesterday they did 2 drives and then they switched him to the other side.
Exactly.
So Rashawn
Exactly.
Slater was awesome yesterday, both in the run game and in the passing game. He didn't allow a single pressure. So it was a great rookie debut from Rashawn Slater, and I'm expecting a big season from him this year.
Yeah, Rashawn Slater was one of those draft picks you can just look at and be like, oh, that's a future All-Pro. I mean, besides the fact that him training with Zach Martin, I mean, that wasn't enough big enough sign. But yeah, he's definitely an effective player, man. And sitting back and watching him in his rookie debut go against Chase Young, it's just like, man. But so, because it's going to help, because if you have a quarterback in the future of Justin Herbert, you have to have that protection piece. And, Rashawn Slater is definitely that guy. Well, now let's get into Sunday's matchup. So we have the Dallas Cowboys coming to SoFi Stadium to play your Los Angeles Chargers. Give me a little bit about your thoughts on the game. Because what did you see from us, in last Thursday game versus the Bucs? We were thinking like, was your expectations changed a little bit about Dallas Cowboys seeing that game versus Tom Brady and the Bucs on Thursday?
If you would have asked me that a couple weeks ago, I would have said no. But I think the Dak Prescott shoulder injury was definitely something that I was curious about. I did not expect him to go out in the first game and throw 50 passes.
I don't think no one did.
Right. I know Kellen Moore said today that they had called like more runs and Dak just kind of checked out of them, which, that's obviously Dak's right. Like he is, a great quarterback. So that really was kind of the only thing I was really kind of curious about, that I could see like, okay, if Dak's not healthy, then the Chargers probably have it in the bag, but he's healthy, he's ready to go. And, I know some people are kind of, taking a sigh of relief because Michael Gallup's not there, but, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper are one of the best, if not the best receiving duos in the league, in my opinion. And like we just talked about, the Chargers secondary being a little bit of a concern. So, this could be a matchup where Dak and company have, a big day. And, this is going to be a big test for Brandon Staley and what he wants to do going forward, because he really prides himself on, taking away big plays. And that's obviously what the Dallas Cowboys offense is really built around right now, is getting the ball in the hands of Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and letting them just go and make big plays. So it's going to be a very, very interesting, chess match between Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley.
Yeah, and I think it's going to come down to game planning. And so let me ask you this, because you're neutral, you're on the other side of the fence. If you were in our seat, right, and you're preparing to play the Los Angeles Chargers, are you going to be more aerial focused in the pass game, or would you be more ground and pound and use Ezekiel Elliott? Because I know when it comes to your defense, even though you got Bosa and some of these guys, like your run defense isn't necessarily the best. And so how would you attack the Chargers if you were the Cowboys?
If I were the Cowboys, I would try to use Zeke a little more than I did last week. Like I'm not hanging out
4 carries in that.
Yeah. I know that Zeke is not the same player that he once was, but I think if you're going to beat the Chargers, you've really got to have an effective rushing attack, because they play a too high safety shell, like I said. And so everything is kind of, based around limiting explosive plays in the passing game. So I think you've got to have some kind of, element of balance with Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard too. I'm not necessarily saying you go like a full 50-50 split, but, something closer to 60-40, I think would do the Cowboys well, because that really is, in my opinion, the weak point of the Chargers defense is their run defense. Like I said, I am a little bit concerned about the Chargers secondary, but you have dudes there. Like you have Derwin James, who can match up, as we saw in training camp, with the best of the best in terms of the receivers. You have Chris Harris, who can, play very well from time to time. And Asante Samuel Jr. is somebody that can handle that could hold his own. It'll be a challenge, but, they have dudes back there. It's not like that it's the Raiders, who are just awful in secondary.
Right.
So if it were me, I would kind of try to look more towards Zeke and Tony Pollard and soften up the Chargers defense up the middle and on the edges with the rushing attack.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where the focus is going to be. And when I came out of the Tampa game, I said what the Cowboys and Cowboys fans have to really look for is week 2. Because I feel like the weak point with the Chargers is in the run game. But if we still abandon the run
Yeah.
again, now clearly lets you know what's the focus of the Cowboys with Kellen Moore and this offense moving forward. And we're going to be more pass dominant. So, I personally we should see a lot more Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. And necessarily doesn't have to be just dives and handoffs. I mean, just getting them involved a lot more, getting them touches and see what that opens up. Because like you said, they're going to try to limit the big plays. And so maybe some of the underneath stuff will really open up. So let me ask you this, Steve. What concerns you about playing the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, it's all about Dak because I think, that Antonio Gibson had 90 yards yesterday, and like nobody's really talking about it. Like it's just, everything is focused elsewhere, and that's okay. But that's Staley's defense. Like he wants to make people, be patient, and he wants you to force yourself into, checking it down and trying to extend these 12, 13, 14 play drives, because eventually he's going to trust his defense to make plays. And the Washington football team just didn't have the dudes to make it kind of work. Like I think Terry McLaurin is really, really good. I think he's one of the more underrated receivers in the league. But once Ryan Fitzpatrick went down, you just kind of felt like the Chargers defense had it in the bag that you can run it all you want. Like we're gonna dare you to run it. And if you keep doing that, great. Like eventually we're going to make some plays. We're going to cause some turnovers. And that's what happened. So it's different when you're playing a guy like Dak Prescott, who can make any throw on the field and also, create some havoc with his legs, which the Chargers have, traditionally struggled with. So to me, it's all about Dak Prescott and the passing attack and whether or not they're able to get those explosive plays, or if Dak is kind of more of a game manager this week, because that's really what the Brandon Staley defense is designed to, kind of cause.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I don't believe after seeing what we saw week 1 that we can go back to game manager Dak. I feel like this is going to be the new era because I know Kellen Moore, and I think, Dak Prescott now, he's a made man. He has his money. So, there was conversation about him changing out of the run plays. It's going to be his team. And I think that after seeing what we saw last week, we're definitely going to go for it. Now, here we go again with some limitations with their offensive line, with Lyle being suspended, I guess, for the next 5 games for what, who knows. And so it's going to be interesting to see how does Mike McCarthy game plan, but also strategically, how do they utilize some of the depth? Are they going to move Zach Martin to right tackle and just plug Connor McGovern back in right guard? All Cowboys fans and insiders believe that should be the smart move, but will they really do it? We don't know. And so if they are going to do what I think they are, unfortunately, and don't kill me, Cowboys fam, by putting Terrence Steele out there at right tackle like they did last year, I feel like Joey Bosa could have a field day. And what does that mean for the passing game? Because we don't want Dak under constant pressure, because that's the one thing we did great versus the Bucs is we kept Dak clean for the majority of the night. But if you're unable to do that, it definitely changed your scheme and your game planning. But hopefully the Cowboys will do the right thing. Now, my concerns as a Cowboys fan, and I said this, y'all, and I mean this wholeheartedly. I am more concerned, Steve, about playing the Chargers than I was about playing the Bucs. And the reason why I say that is I feel like we had our backs against the wall. We were like 9.5-point underdogs, or who telling by the time the game actually started. Everybody was counting us out. You had a Super Bowl like atmosphere. Like, it's easy to get up for those games. It's easy to get fired. I mean, any football player would be fired. Hell, I was in the stands. I was fired up. I was ready to go, because of the environment, because of everything surrounding that game. But now we're here to week 2, and everyone's giving the Cowboys their flowers, and everyone's saying that we should run away with the NFC East, and now we're playoff contenders. And so it's really going to be interesting to see, does that carry over? I'm a Florida State fan, so I watched us compete against Notre Dame, and everyone was like, oh, that was a close game. They should have won. Florida State's going to be a lot better. And then here comes Jacksonville State, and we're looking like, what the heck is this? And so, that's why I'm never a fan of moral victories, because week by week, things change, especially it's a different game. And so we really can't be just resting on our, we almost beat the Bucs and think that we're going to bring that same mentality to the Chargers. No, we have to really line up and compete with these guys as well, because you have so many talented players and a lot of my favorites. Now, another concern is your wide receivers versus our secondary. I just don't trust it, man. We saw what Antonio Brown was capable of doing. I mean, Mike Evans didn't even have to get involved. Mitchell, like some of these other guys, because the Bucs had other weapons, but it was pretty much just, Antonio Brown and Gronkowski. And so, our secondary, as good as Trayvon Diggs is, and he will be, on the other side, there's a huge liability, and you guys have a lot of weapons with your wide receiver core. So talk us through about your wide receivers, and who were some of the matchups that the Chargers are going to look to take advantage of in your passing game.
Yeah, so I mean, it all starts with Keenan Allen, who, regardless of what you think of, his yards or touchdowns or whatever, like, he is the first or second best route runner in the league, in my opinion. Like, the way that he runs routes is truly second to none. Like, we see it on a weekly basis. Here in Los Angeles, it doesn't matter. William Jackson is a fantastic corner for the Washington football team. He couldn't stop him. Like, it was just, you pair Keenan Allen with this Saints passing attack, which does a lot of option routes, gives Keenan Allen a lot of freedom to read and react to coverages. And it's just a lethal, combination. And especially when you pair him with Justin Herbert. And, one of the things from the Washington game that was really amazing to see was that we all knew that Justin Herbert was going to Keenan Allen. On the last drive, Chargers get the ball back with about 7 minutes, and the Washington football team could not stop it. Like, it was just first down on, throughout the entire drive. So it all starts with Keenan Allen, who really is, like I said, one of the more underrated players in the league. Of course, I'm biased. After him, you have a guy like Mike Williams, who, to put it bluntly, like, he's been a disappointment for where the Chargers drafted him, because they drafted him 7th overall. And if you're drafted in the top 10, like, you got to be a all-pro, Pro Bowl, level player. And he has not been that. He's been a serviceable player. Like, he has his moments. He's great at what he does best, which is, jump balls. Like, he really comes down with passes that nobody else in the league outside of maybe DeAndre Hopkins can do. But we've always just been kind of wanting more from him in terms of a route runner. Like, you're there watching Keenan Allen every day in practice. Like, we've always hoped that some of that has rubbed off on Mike Williams. And until this year, like, it really hasn't. But it seems like he's finally, taking that part of his craft seriously. He had a great game on Sunday. He was targeted 12 times, which was a career high. He had 8 catches. I think like 80 yards and a touchdown. He could have had another touchdown. He dropped a touchdown pass, which is kind of a concern. But, he's a big physical receiver that Justin Herbert really trusts to make plays in space and make plays deep. But they're using him more as kind of a crosser and slants and trying to get the ball in his hands to make plays after the catch. So those are the two big ones. And then we talked earlier about Jalen Guyton. He's their deep threat. He's the one that takes the top off. He runs a 4.3. And is just a blazer.
I don't know how we let him go. He was and the thing about Jalen Guyton, he and Dak Prescott built a great relationship, and for some reason we just let him go. But yeah, carry on, speed. Yeah, just he just has it all, man. And I liked Guyton when he was at Notre Dame, and also when he went to UNT, I believe. It was one of those we let go.
Yeah, and credit to him, he's improved a lot. Last year, he actually led the league in drop percentage, which was just, not great. And, that's been turning around. Like, he was a body catcher last year, and it was pretty obvious. And, he's getting better. They actually threw a back shoulder fade to him yesterday, which like kind of blew our minds. So he's improved a lot, and he's the third one. And then they drafted Josh Palmer out of Tennessee, who really had a great training camp. He's kind of that fourth receiver. They're going to bring him on slowly. But he's a big physical guy, kind of gives them the best of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. He's a route runner, but he can kind of stretch the field vertically and give you some size and jump ball situations too. So those are really the 4 receivers. And then, we can talk about the tight ends and the running backs too. Austin Eckler's not super healthy right now. He's battling a hamstring injury. But if he's able to get that kind of, tuned up a little bit more, then Austin Eckler, I think, is probably the second or third best pass catching running back in the league behind, Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara.
Which typically give us
that's a big question
issues.
mark.
Those type of running backs give us issues. Those kind of hybrid receivers / running backs, especially with our linebacker core. Now, granted, we've upgraded our linebacker core, but traditionally with Jalen Smith and LVE and Sean Lee, those guys typically have a field day. So hopefully we don't see much of Elker out there on Sunday. Now, before I let you go, of course, man, can't let you out of here without a prediction. So what is your prediction for Sunday game, Dallas Cowboys versus the Los Angeles Chargers? Put you on the spot.
Yeah. Like I said, I think this is going to be a lot of points. This is definitely a matchup where if you've got any Chargers player or Cowboys player in fantasy football, like you got to start them, except for maybe the Dallas Cowboys tight end. I'm not too sure about that one, how they're going to kind of, divvy up Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin. But in terms of the skill players, the quarterbacks, you start whoever you have. Mm-hmm. But I think the Chargers really have, a defensive genius on their hands. And I think if there's anybody who can, create just enough space to, give Dak Prescott some problems in this passing game, I think it is Brandon Staley. I think it's going to be an incredibly close game. Going to come down to the wire because that's always the Chargers. They always come down to the wire.
Right.
But I'll say the Chargers win 31-30. So I'll give them a 1 point
30. Win. Okay. So I can kind of see it being in the 30s. I have the Cowboys winning 31-27. But this
so we're pretty close.
Hopefully there's not too many missed field goals, but I feel like this is going to be a back and forth matchup where, because the Chargers, even last year, there's a lot of close games, and eventually that's what teams tend to turn around as they start winning those close games. And so, like I said, you guys have the talent definitely there, especially now that you have, your left tackle and different things like that. Randy Gregory on our aspect, he might be out with COVID. So who knows? Yeah. So I think it's going to be a back and forth matchup. But I can see the Cowboys slightly winning this game. But let's hope it's just not coming down to a field goal, because if not, man, all bets are off, man. But Steve, I appreciate you for stopping by. For everyone watching us once again, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow my personal page at Stephen I. Hagland. I also write for the LEFB network. So if you're into reading articles, you can follow me there. And then you can follow our podcast at GSA Podcast 17. We're on YouTube as well, every podcast platform out there. And like I said, if you want to know about this team, follow our page, and I'll be sure to let you all know who to look out for this week.
Exactly. That's where I get all my insight from. So definitely a great follow, man. And salute to all of your hard work. And the podcast is growing tremendously. So salute to you. And for everyone who's seeing me, of course, J Tuck on Twitter at JTuck151. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Cowboys Fans Only. And also go to cowboysfansonly.com. We got some more shows lined up this week, live shows, more content. We're going to keep it's football season, man. So we're going to keep things burning, man, keep things going, man. And hopefully I can actually do some content about a win, man. Because I've been still been bummed out, man. I've still been bummed out about Tampa, So eventually I need to get over it and start preparing for the Chargers, man. But I appreciate you for stopping by. Like I said, salute to your incredible work. And salute to everyone who's watching the show right now. Salute to you. Continue to subscribe. Continue to follow, man. And I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged. Go Cowboys. Let's get this win. And trade us Derwin James. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later, man.
You got to give us Tyron Smith, man.
I can talk. Leighton Vander Esch, linebacker. We'll talk, man. Have a good one, everybody.
Appreciate it, man.